Okay, so let's go ahead and create our final fourth screen. So click on screen 4. And the first thing I actually want to do quickly is with this text and the bubbles, you can see that it's a white text color and the bubbles are quite, it kind of goes in the way of the white text, so you can't see that well. So what you can do with the bubbles is click on the bubbles layer and hit T on your keyboard, T for tiger, and then click on opacity and bring it down for the bubbles so that the bubbles kind of fade out and they're kind of in the background a bit more. So something about 37. And as you can see, the bubbles kind of look like they're in the background now and you can see the text better. So that's a quick tip. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this kind of slide, and again for these screens, these 4 screens, you can add in whatever images or text you want or whatever kind of design you want. This is just to show you how to create a nice kind of looking design. So what we're going to do is first create the background, so with the stripes. So Control D, so duplicate that, so Control D on the screen, hit enter and call this one stripes, and let's go and grab Venetian blinds, so and drop that onto stripes, and we'll bring this up to about maybe 40s, maybe 56, something around 54, something like that kind of angle, and we'll change this color and make it maybe a little darker, something like that. And let's go ahead and bring transition completion up so that we can see the stripes, and let's go ahead and make the width a lot bigger, maybe something like that. That looks good. Okay, so with these backgrounds we can lock them in so that we can't actually move them anymore, they're just kind of out of the way, and we'll hide them as well. Now what we can do is create that conveyor belt, and that's pretty simple to do as well. So let's go have a look at that. So this belt down here, what we can do is grab this tool here, the rounded rectangle tool, make sure you got that one selected, and then just click and draw out that kind of shape, and then we'll call this one conveyor. Whoops, conveyor, like so. And under rectangle 1 in these properties, rectangle path 1, bring out the roundness as much as you can, so something looks like that. There we go, looks quite nice. And we can change this color to a light gray for the fill, something like that, or maybe something like a bit lighter. That looks quite good. And then what we're going to do for the stroke, we'll bring up the stroke as well to maybe about 22. That looks good. Okay, cool. So if I zoom in now over here, and I'm going to use the hand tool, so I'm going to hit H on my keyboard, H for hand, so I can move it around, and I'm going to go create a circle. So let's click on this button, hold it down and get ellipse tool. Make sure that this isn't selected. If I create anything when the layer is selected and highlighted like that, then often it adds to, as you can see, it's added to this layer, so it's not a separate layer. So what we need to do is make sure that it's not selected, so that we can create a separate layer. Click, hold down shift and draw out your circle. Make the stroke a little bit less, maybe something like that. Let's have a look on this one, what it looks like. Okay, so it's got much smaller, maybe something like 10 or 12 looks good actually. Let's stay with 12, and we'll make it a little bit bigger as well. So click on this and click, hold down shift, and we'll make it a little bit bigger and position it like so. That looks good. We'll call this one circle, and we'll make one more circle. So click away and make sure you create the circle here, and this time we don't need the stroke, so bring it up to 0 and bring the fill color the same as that color as well. So click on that, and if we go in a bit more, H on my keyboard so I can bring it across, and you'll see my circle there. Make it a little bit bigger maybe, and that looks quite good. Okay, cool. So now what we can do is we can add in these lines that go across. So if I just go over to the shape layer, okay, and I'll click on this, and I'm going to select the rounded rectangle tool for this one, and just click and draw out this kind of shape, something like that. Let's have a look at this. Okay, it's not too bad. Let's make it a bit wider, so click on there, drag it down, maybe something like that. Let's have a look at this. Okay, so it's looking quite good. Bring it across a bit, and then what we can do to duplicate this without actually duplicating the layer, let's call this one bar, and let's call this one middle circle. Okay, so on the bar, what you can do is add a repeater. So click on add, then repeater. So this button, add repeater, and as you can see, it's created some extra copies. So this is a really quick way to duplicate things without actually having to duplicate it. And drop down repeater 1, and copies, maybe make something like 10. Okay, and then drop down transform repeater 1, and under position, if we drag across, we can drag it into place, something like that. That looks quite good, evenly spaced. And now what we can do is just select all these layers, so just drop them down and select all these layers, right click, pre-compose, and we'll call this one conveyor. Great, so now what we can do is we're going to duplicate this layer, so let's bring it over here, Control D, and I'm going to click and drag this across, and I'll bring the bottom one up top so we can see the circle in the middle, and just position it nicely, like so. And let's have a look at this one. Okay, so the belt's a little bit, that looks good there. Great, I'll make it a little bit smaller, this conveyor belt, so scale, bring it down a little bit, something like that, and bring that across. Okay, that's quite good. There we go. Nice, so now we've done our conveyor belts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lock those as well so we don't move those, and just hide those. And now what we can do is create the shape. So if your ruler lines aren't up, make sure that you go and click on rulers, so make sure you got your rulers in there. And what you can do is grab the pen tool, and we're going to draw up that kind of shape. So let's click over here, over here, over there, and over there, and over there. So click kind of this kind of shape. Can't remember what that's called. And then what I'm going to do is click on these rulers, drag them down, so that we can make sure that everything's in the same line, so it's everything straight and looking good. And then what we can do is grab another line, place it at the bottom as well, and lock it in. Now when you click this on the line, it actually locks into the line, so you can move it in a nice straight line and create a nice looking shape. Okay, so something like that. It's looking quite good. Great, so now I've got my shape done. I'll move these out of the way, and I'll move that up. Okay, so let's call this one shape BG, and I'm going to duplicate that, Control D, and call this one stripes BG, and grab the Venetian blinds, drop it onto stripes again, and bring this to 90 degrees so that we can have a nice horizontal line. And the shape BG, we're going to make it this kind of light bluey green color, this one down here, so maybe something a little bit lighter actually, something like that for the first one. And let's go and make these up to that kind of size yet, and we'll create this one, same kind of color but maybe a little bit darker even. So something like, whoops, okay, maybe something like that. We'll just go with that for now. Cool, so we've got a nice looking shape. If we bring this up, making sure it's in line with the conveyor, whoops, we need to make sure that we select both of the layers, so we move them together, bring them up. Okay, and we can pre-compose those, so right click on those layers, pre-compose, and call this one shape. And what we can do is we can add a drop shadow onto that, so let's go DROP for drop shadow, and we'll just drop that onto the shape over here. And we'll put it on this kind of angle, something like that, and bring it up even more, so something like that looks good, and maybe make it a bit more horizontal, something like that. That's good. Cool. Great, so actually I'm going to make those conveyor belts a little bit smaller. I think they're quite big still, so let's just select those, hit S, and bring them down a little bit more. Okay, that looks good, and we'll position them in there. Okay, cool. That looks good. Okay, and I'll grab the shape again and place the shape on there. Okay, so now what we need to do is add the animation so that the shape kind of slides across like it's going on a conveyor belt. So at about 2 seconds, place your image where you want it to end up, so maybe in the middle like so, and hit P on your keyboard for position. Click on the stopwatch so that the animation is going to finish there. We'll bring this timeline indicator to the beginning at 0 seconds, and now we're going to move it off to where we want it to begin. So click and hold down Shift and drag it off, and if we play this through, you'll see that it slides on like it's going on a conveyor belt. So again, let's highlight that one, right click, keyframe assistance, easy ease, so that it gives it a nice kind of smooth motion coming in. And what we can do is add in some text to that. So let's click on here, the text tool, and type in some text. Add in your text here. Control Enter, and get the selection tool, and let's move it into place. Make it a little bit smaller. Great, so that's looking quite good. And what we need to do is select this text and parent it, so attach it to shape 1 over there, so that when the shape moves, the text goes with it. Great, so there's our final screen 4 slide. So now if I bring this resolution a bit down so we can play a bit faster, you'll see that we've created a whole introduction. The next thing we need to do is create our next scene, add in an animated character, and create a flop where the shape kind of flops down over top of the screen. So jump onto the next section, make sure that you go through and actually practice these skills and create your first introduction, and then go on to the next section, and I'm going to show you how to create an animated character and the rest of our middle section.